So I have finally watched season 3 of Dark on Netflix, and having loved the first 2 seasons, this final entry has once again delivered. Succeeding where many other series often fail, this third and final season continues its delicate time-travelling balancing act all the way through to a thrilling and shocking conclusion. It gets to the heart of characters questioning their free will and whether their destiny is one that is authentic. In this video essay, I'm going to be discussing the reasons why I think Dark Season 3 is a perfect ending to the show. There will be brief spoilers from time to time, so if you haven't seen the final season, then I'd recommend catching up before watching this video. To stay up to date with all of my future uploads on upcoming TV shows and movies like Dark, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoy this video, remember to leave a like rating. But without further ado, let's dive into my video essay for Dark Season 3. Netflix's mesmerising German language series Dark certainly has an appropriate name. A great deal of the new 8-episode season takes place in dim rooms and unlit garages, in an oppressive forest and a shadowy cave, or under faltering lighting that suggests a kind of heavy morale decay falling over the world. The series is conceptually dark, full of cheating spouses, bold secrets, grotesque killings, and dead birds falling from the sky. But more importantly, it's as physically and mentally dark as an early Fincher movie, and it carries the same level of weight. It's a series meant to be watched late at night, experienced like a ghost story around a campfire that's burning down to its final embers. Over the first 2 seasons, it's been revealed the main 2 love interests, Jonas and Martha, are technically aunt and nephew through time travel events. Another character is her grandmother, and in the season 2 finale, a whole other parallel universe exists. Every scene picks at another part of this tangled knot, and slowly the plot starts to make sense, even if it remains just as tangled. Dark Season 3 picks up right where Season 2 left off, with alternative Martha and Jonas travelling to the new world, which eventually gets explored in depth. It's a stereotypical parallel world where everything has changed, but everything stays the same as well. This is not an out-of-character move for the show, as the mirror world was foreshadowed from the very beginning in Dark's eerie symmetrical opening titles. Dark Season 3 is ultimately the perfect salute to the complexities and knots human emotions can create, and it's delivered in a chilling yet precise manner. The time travel continues, but this season adds another dimension to the story, literally through an alternative Winden where Jonas was never born. As Jonas sees Adam kill Martha in the climax of Season 2, another Martha appears to tell him that she has come from another world. In Season 3, she takes him to that other Winden, and the characters appear in similar loops, with the main standout difference being Mikkel, who never travels back in time in that Winden, and so Jonas is never born. But him and Martha still share an inexplicable bond, where they also discover slowly that they finally become Adam and Eve, arch enemies driven by their own strong emotions towards each other. But then there's Claudia, who is playing a much more complex and bigger game than either of them. She, too, is driven by the love for her daughter Regina. Through the central plot lines, Dark has painted itself into a corner. 8 episodes to unravel all the time travel mysteries of the first 2 seasons is a tall order. However, Season 3 incredibly manages to draw a satisfying conclusion through its plot twists and time travel loops. There are more answers than questions by the end, which counts as a success for a show with such an in-depth and complex plot. To this point, keeping up with Dark Season 3 is even more of a challenge than with the first 2 seasons. While the show's trademark penultimate scene montage of characters set to a song device is handy to recap events in each episode, you still might feel compelled to note down what's happening. This may seem frustrating in many other shows, but with Dark, it's the natural progression of how the show has grown, and fans, including myself, will likely see this as part of Dark's charm. At least their uncertainty is set in a beautifully rendered world. The jangling nails on chalkboard music and the bleak cinematography are off-putting, but in a conscious, controlled way that makes events more clearer as the episodes pass. And by the end of the third episode, when the creators take time to visually compare the modern-day Wyndham residents with their younger selves, the series has gone in a lyrical, longing direction that feels miles away from anything else out there. At this moment, there's an aching sense of beauty and loneliness to Dark that places it far above the usual mystery or supernatural horror story. Suddenly, it's not a series about dead birds and dead children and the question of what links them. It's about what links past and present, and how easily people drop the promise and premises of youth and become old and tired. Like so much of the show, it's a dark and dreary message, presented with an artfulness that becomes beautiful and inevitably addictive. Netflix is so often looking for bingeable entertainment, and with Dark, the platform has a series that's both hard to watch and impossible to stop watching. With fantastic acting, excellent screenwriting, great direction, and that ever-haunting title and background score, the third and climactic season of Dark is a masterpiece in its own right. The creators have managed to justify even the mirroring effect in the title roles with the events in the season. The visual continuity created with a warp effect is just another masterstroke to add to the list. On its own, Dark Season 3 looks too complex, too confusing, and too weirdly placed to be called a good season of television. However, within the context of the first two seasons, it may go down as one of the best final seasons in sci-fi TV history, somehow avoiding every trope and downfall from the shows of the past. Season 3 feels like a logical extension of the ethical and psychological dilemmas that the show writers have been wrestling with from the outset. With so many competing motivations and diabolical schemes being manoeuvred in real time, Dark finds connective tissue in the idea that it's understandable to want to do what's best for the ones we love. Even when presented with generations of evidence or the literal nuclear blasted remains of a hollowed out world, it's hard to square the idea that fighting for your soulmate or saving a child could somehow be an incorrect choice. The most effective villain of Dark is the cruelty in a logic that somehow punishes people for trying to correct their mistakes. Although in the early parts of Season 3, these concepts being explored might make the viewer feel as though their brain is being crushed, the trust and perseverance are key. By the time the 8th and final episode has played out, the narrative hasn't just landed, it's done so both perfectly with a profound emotional richness that no one could see coming. Dark is all about the inescapable crush of the will of inevitability. Its characters suffer eternally, and in their attempts to escape it, they often make themselves the original source of that suffering, both for themselves and for their children, who half the time are also their parents. The final episode of Dark takes those two supposedly essential elements of itself, and it throws them out the window. Throughout all of the show, there's been talk of a source, an initial moment that began the current infinity of time loops. While it's treated with a lot of weight, at its core, it's an almost laughable idea. The desperate last hope of someone stuck in a cycle they know is endless. And yet the final season and episode reveals that the source is indeed real. As it happens, both universes in Dark were born out of a third origin universe. In that universe, the old scientist and clockmaker Tannhaus lost his son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter in a car crash. Whacked by grief and obsessed with quantum physics, he tried to invent a time machine. Instead, he gave birth to two new universes where time travel is possible and the results are not pretty. In the last episode, Jonas and Martha travel to this new universe on the night of the car crash, and they avert it. They do what every character has been trying and failing to do for the past 3 seasons. They go back in time to stop a tragedy before it happens, and it works. As Martha and Jonas convince Tannhauser's family to turn back and not drive across the bridge they're destined to die on, it's impossible not to wait for the other shoe to drop. And yet it doesn't. Tannhaus never loses his family, so he never builds his machine, and the worlds we've spent 3 years getting to know simply never came into existence. Martha and Jonas, teenaged, middle-aged and old, dissolve into golden dust, and with them, their worlds. This is where the show eventually ends on a dinner party in 2020 in this original, now singular world. This dinner party has 6 guests, without the list of a time travel influenced family tree, and none of the other named characters ever existed. And the guests are, of all things, happy. Of course, it's not the happiest of happy endings. Nearly every character we've known and suffered with has just ceased to exist. But in a final monologue, Hannah describes the dream she had the night before, in which everything ended in oblivion. She insists it was a good kind of oblivion. And frankly, that's the best Dark could possibly hope for. A good oblivion and a hopeful one. This other, original Hannah is pregnant, and at the end of her monologue muses that Jonas is a beautiful name. Does Dark finish with every loose end tied up? No, but any story of this magnitude and willful obliqueness is going to leave you with some questions. The final dinner party even acknowledges this by addressing one reigning mystery in Wooler's missing eye. He is about to explain what happened to it, but is cut off, never getting the chance. As far as I can tell, this is Dark's sole joke. But while Dark doesn't clarify everything, it comes damn close to it. And it gives a wholly satisfying closed ending, which is something very few time travel stories can say for themselves. This monster of a show did not end how I personally expected it to, but after watching it a second time, I can't imagine wanting it to end any other way. While the season and the series has an ending that seems more and more destined as the full scope of this philosophical struggle comes into view, there's still something thrilling about seeing these characters pushing themselves into the unknown. That goes for the travellers from the future, unsure about what they leave out of their reports to their younger versions. It goes for the petrified teenager grabbing the hand of cross-dimensional messenger, insisting that they follow. And it also goes for every character in this saga who, when presented with proof of the impossible, responds with something other than outright rejection. Even with all that uncertainty, Dark has maintained that tension for 3 of the most thrilling sci-fi TV seasons ever made. To see it make the end with its ambitions and technique intact is certainly something worth remembering. It's a show that deserves to be seen by many more viewers, and it deserves to be seen multiple times. But regardless of what I thought, I'm interested to hear what all of you guys have to say on this final season. So let me know down below what your reaction was to watching Dark Season 3, alongside your thoughts towards the things that I discussed surrounding the Netflix series. To stay up to date with all of my future videos on upcoming TV shows and movies, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like rating. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.